So I wonder if we need to do some more about the military. Because right now the military is only somewhat loyal. And I don't like that. So yeah, we'll save our political power and then we'll start blitzing through these again. Get the military sorted. Light strike groups done, as are support weapons. So we now have air parity. We're definitely going to go with the close air support, air defense. And then support weapons was over here. It is now 1964, so let's get the more advanced AT. And we also got air-land strikes. That is a land doctrine. And we can get vertical envelopment. Now these are all helicopters. We don't actually have helicopters yet. And I am wondering... if we start working on the army... yeah, research bonuses for doctrines. We're going to save those because we got doctrine bonuses to come in still. In fact, we have quite a few. So let's start researching something else, like maybe industrial. 1970 is the next technology for research. We could upgrade the radar. We could also upgrade our military construction. We're still not doing any actual production of weaponry. Ah, we need... no, we have it already, never mind. I mean, we could research helicopters. There's nothing stopping us from doing this. Also, artillery hasn't been upgraded, neither has our armor. We've been mostly going with heavy infantry formations with Air Force, but we probably should do something about... in fact, we also want engineers. Now, what do our infantry divisions already have? Do you have engineers? You do. You also have artillery. And so do you. Okay, let's research the support companies. So we'll upgrade our engineers, we'll upgrade the recon, and we'll upgrade probably just standard artillery. Line artillery. The royal issue. For a brief moment, Jellicoe thought that the radicals did have a point when they suggested shooting Edward. From an impartial point of view, it was simpler. Jellicoe sighed and came back to reality. Edward would live. Really, all the major decisions were made by Berlin, who kept Edward as a figurehead, and any of the minor decisions were made by people under him who hated his guts. And there was a bit of hesitation when the NDLs, within the NDL to execute a close member of the Queen. Anyway, I'm not reading this well today. And there was a bit of hesitation within the NDL to execute a close family member of the Queen anyway. So, the sad sap would keep his head, but there was still the question of what to do with him. Exile him, that was an option. Put him as far away from the island as possible, but some said it was a bit too much. He should be allowed to stay if his titles were stripped from him. Without his titles, he would be nothing. He would be nothing if he were permanently kicked out of the kingdom. What was the difference? Both put him out of the picture just as well as the other, but still there was a massive debate about it. Exile was something out of the 1700s. Stripping his titles was too lenient. He could be doing something sneaky if he was put outside of the English jurisdiction. He might do something sneaky if he had access to London. He might not. He might just be happy to be out of the picture anyway and not make a move. God damn it, he was tired of this. He was the Prime Minister, and he'd solved the issue once and for all. And Edward would be removed from his jurisdiction, or would be now known as Mr. Windsor. And because the Prime Minister is, at least nominally, democratic, let's put this up for a poll. What to do with Eddie? Remove from his jurisdiction. Can't read that. Remove, which I think is the exile. Yeah, so the first one is exile. And then the second one is Mr. Windsor, where he just loses his titles but can stay in England. And vote. Get your votes in. Vote, vote, vote. The votes are up. It's vote time. So this is to exile him or to revoke his titles, in that order. Mr. Windsor is just keep stripping his titles. Kalinus wants me to drink some tea. And as has been pointed out, he was definitely a very, very reluctant ruler. He did not want to be king. Red Centaur also wants me to drink some tea. Should have had the option to kill him due to being a traitor to the British. The thing is, Kalinus, he wasn't really. It's not like he had a choice in the matter. Wasn't Wilhelm II called Mr. Hohenzollern in real life following his own exile? He might have been. Not sure. And yeah, also remember we are a member of the monarchist group of government. If this had been the socialists or probably Sterling, we probably could have shot him. But the moderate right in England are pro-monarchy. Just remembered you had an aversion to discuss a certain tag in Russia when you played the Iberian Union. What was that about? The AB. I think their name kind of gives that one away. Okay, so he is not going to be exiled. Exiled came in with just 18% of the vote, meaning that 82% of you want him to simply be called Mr. Windsor. And Kumi Ishmael contributed 13,000 channel points to get that across, so thank you for that. And we shall know him as Mr. Windsor. Alright, so we can now get back to the construction phase. And actually, seeing as we're bringing the Queen back, I do wonder if we should do something with the Secret Intelligence Service. Like, now of all times, while the democracy is still young and potentially problematic. Wait, every state gets jobs? Is that something that's tracked? Ah, we now have the House of Commons. Here we go. So that's Jellicoe, that's Wilson. So right now the socialists actually have more popularity than us. And government stability is quite low. So we should try and get all of the unpopular stuff out of the way early. Which I think will include things like bringing in the Secret Service again. So let's do that. No contradiction greater than King Philby can be found. Philby is a firm believer in the absolute annihilation of the enemies of the working class. He also leads the Secret Intelligence Service better than anyone else could. To remove him would be a near impossible and would be a major blow to the young service. We must treat this affair delicately, like capturing a butterfly. We can neither tighten our grip too hard, nor slacken up too much. And we do now have decisions available again. And currently, I would like to continue working on the army. Oh, and there's the government stability penalty. I don't think that's regular stability, that's a government stability. Because the country's stability is super high, it's the government's that's not. So I think we want to save up 150 and then drop these two at the same time. The moment of triumph. Whoever came up with the idea to televise this deserved a knighthood, Jellicoe thought. Jet aircraft were preparing to fly the tape as soon as it was broadcast to Canada and Australia. TV sets were flying off the shelves, and everyone not in a crowd outside were gathered around a television set for the duration of the ceremony. Everyone could see the coronation and everyone could be a part of it. Not to say this had dampened attendance along the procession route. Everyone wanted to see the new queen in person, riding with her husband in a gilded carriage, with a newly incorporated royal guard in front and behind her. The reception was mostly positive. The SLP had elements who were going to protest the ceremony, but they'd been drowned out by the cheers of the onlookers and the martial music. No disruptions on the route happened, which was Jellicoe's main concern. The ceremony began with the Queen entering Westminster Abbey to a choir singing I Was Glad. Once she had seated herself in the chair of estate, the religious paraphernalia and the coronation garments were brought in. Then came the first necessary step. The Queen stood next to King Edward's chair. Sirs, said the Archbishop of Canterbury, I here present unto you Queen Elizabeth, your undoubted Queen. Wherefore all you who came into this day do your homage and service. Are you willing to do the same? God save Queen Elizabeth, affirmed the crowd. Throughout the rest of the ceremony, filled with oaths and traditions, he was never bored or found himself wishing for a quick end. For everything that the HMMLR had worked for everything that so many men had died to do, and every sacrifice made by the people of England, it was for this. The true heir had returned, and the world knew that the pre-war England had returned. When St. Edward's crown touched Edward II's head, a new reign, a new era for a kingdom had officially begun. Long live the Queen. So how's the economy looking? Deficit's actually increasing, which is great. So let's pay off another chunk of the debt, I would say. Doesn't look like we're using the money for anything else. And we have actually finished building all of the infrastructure that we'd queued up, so we should probably start up another set, which we will, I think, put in the West Midlands. Like so. Now, are we going to get infrastructure? No. And that's okay. In fact, this is good. DEFCON 5. We're about as far away from nuclear war as it's possible to get. Awesome! The Levantine Confederation, the newly established Italian democracy, has begun to get rid of one of the most troublesome legacies of the fascist era, the overextended colonial empire. At the end of a long process of gradual concessions to native organisations, the Jerusalem Conference has ended with the creation of a new country, the Levantine Confederation. Made up of the former government of the Levant, the Confederation is a multicultural, pluralistic country with a confessionalist government, designed to ensure representation for the many ethnic and religious groups living in its borders. While the decision was surrounded by controversy, there are still several pressure groups in the country advocating for independence. The public opinion seems to be generally favourable, as it will at last ensure the independence for the Levant. The more optimistic commentators believe that the Confederation will be able to ensure peace in the region, but many are more sceptical and see it as a shaky union inevitably destined to break up among religious and ethnic strife. Pre-Dawn Wilton, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the channel. Good to have you joining us. So yeah, Levantine Federation. Actually a pretty big United State. Impressive. Now this would be an interesting one to play as. Be a really interesting one to play as. Try and keep it together. Yeah, that was Arafat. In just a few decades, a man rose from obscurity to fame, becoming the new face of the new Palestine. His name is Yasser Arafat. Born in Egypt to a humble Palestinian family, the young Arafat would soon become a protagonist of Arab political life in the Italian Levant and far beyond. Rising to the forefront of the struggle for independence and freedom in Palestine, Arafat was amongst the founders of the Fatah, an organisation brought out of the uneasy compromise between the militant Palestinian youth campaigning for democracy and the Italian authorities, ever wary of those who dare defy them. As Fatah grew rapidly, it soon found an unlikely ally in the Emir of Transjordan, Hussein. At the same time, Arafat asserted himself as the leader of the movement, soon becoming the main interlocutor for Italy in the Arab camp, as one of the few prominent leaders willing to negotiate with Italy and a useful counter to the much more radical Arab organisations that had become a thorn in the Italian side. After the victorious war against Turkey, the complex process of decolonisation ended with the breakup of the Italian Levant, and at long last independence for the Republic of Palestine, with Arafat being declared its leader. While this success strengthened Arafat's position and popularity amongst the Arabs, the threats to him and the Palestinian democracy are still many. First, the Arab radicals of both left and right, still furious with the existence of the Israeli state, openly declared Fatah to have betrayed the cause of the Arab nationalism, and within Palestine, the supporters of the former Emir Hussein have grown to hate Fatah and its reformist policies. Arafat might have won his battle, but he is far from winning the war, and now more than ever the hopes for peace in the Levant rest upon the shoulders of a single man. A visit in prison. The cell's doors opened loudly, startling the figure hunched over the small desk. He put down the penny he was holding and looked at his visitors. It still wasn't time for his meal. When he saw who it was, he strengthened his posture but refused to stand to greet her. "Niece," came his tired voice, "I would never have expected you to visit me." "Uncle," the young woman answered in a firm tone, without an ounce of sweetness for her kin. "I came to make sure you're being treated right." "I am indeed well treated, considering the circumstances," was the tired answer. Had he always been so sad, so empty? The woman remembered his jovial uncle when he played with her, always laughing, always ready to have fun. Now it was like an empty shell, wrinkles bringing his once regal features down like ropes, tearing down the statue of a tyrant. Despite her efforts, she voiced her innermost thoughts. "Why did you do all of this? Was your thirst for power so great you turned into that monster's lapdog?" Hunger for power, the laugh, so full of scorn, so different from the old ones, almost scared her. "Elizabeth, in all of my life I never held an ounce of power. They took away my crown, my freedom. His voice cracked. They wanted to take away my art, but I didn't let them take that. And look where this brought you. You betrayed the kingdom. You betrayed my father. You..." She stopped when she saw her uncle's eyes turn hollow. "You don't know what I suffered, Elizabeth. It took it all to save my people. I didn't betray him. If it hadn't been for me, London would be rubble by now." The Queen scoffed. "I see you well, uncle. I'll take my leave now," and she made a turn. "Be careful, Elizabeth. The Americans are not different from the Germans. They'll do the same," with a friendly smile. "Be careful. came Edward's last plea. Elizabeth walked away, but she couldn't help the nagging feeling that her uncle may, after all, be right. We'll have to wait and see. Pavlodar declared war, defeated the National Republic of Cromtow. Working tirelessly behind the scenes of even the most shadowy aspects of England's inner workings, Kim Philby has wormed his way into every corner of British politics. The man is a natural-born spy and an enigma in and of himself. No one can be sure of his true intentions. The predicament that we face is the support he receives from everyone and anyone who matters, across both sides of the Commons and beyond. Jellicoe himself has his own doubts as to whether or not the man could really be as bad as some claim. Nevertheless, Philby is an indomitable figure, and his control over the Secret Intelligence Service only adds to the damage he could do to England. His true motives are yet uncovered. Once the truth is found out, we can deal with him for good. What can be done? Dealing with Philby. After careful internal surveillance and intel gathering within MI6 and most loyal elements, we have reached an impasse on our possible strategy, as nearly every option is a double-edged sword. Remove him to ensure loyal leadership, yet inevitably get a weaker leader facing a leftist revolt. Defang him by removing his guns and support, worsening efficiency and still provoking his ire. Or simply keep an eye on him, allowing him to run the service as efficiently as possible, yet perhaps not allowing us to halt the influence until it's too late. We need to make a decision on how we will handle this matter. The Siberian Black Army has defeated the People's Revolutionary Council. They're genuinely kind of scary. I would not be that surprised if the Siberian Black Army wins Russia. Lyndon B. Johnson inaugurated as President of the United States. Following a close political race that for the first time saw the incumbent of Republican Democrats at great risk of losing the reins of power, the party today breathed a sigh of relief as a Republican nominee, Lyndon B. Johnson, achieved victory in the presidential election. In his victory speech, Johnson praised the continuing endurance of the party and vowed to carry on the good work of his predecessors. Bullish but progressively minded, Johnson shares the conviction of former President Kennedy towards the cause of civil rights. Insider voices claim he has some sort of grand project in the works aimed at improving numerous areas of American society, but Johnson remains tight-lipped for the time being. Some political rivals have called him a stubborn bully, though many within the centre NPP have quietly praised some of his electoral platform. Kennedy promised, but can Johnson deliver? The Schild, broken. The Africa Schild was an alliance of convenience between the German colonies of Africa seeking to secure their survival in the wake of the German Civil War. When they invaded South Africa, many assumed it would eventually unravel, either due to the constituent regime's collapse or an OFN military victory. But it came due to the most unexpected cause, betrayal from within. American intelligence has verified reports that Hans Hüttig, a Reichskommissar of Ostafrika, has murdered his compatriot Wolfgang Schenk and forced Siegfried Müller to flee to the continent. Hüttig has since proclaimed a Grossafrikanische Reichsstaat, comprising all of German Africa, with himself as its sole leader. However, this outraged the Germans, who declared the new regime illegitimate. Without aid from home, the future of Hüttig's superstate looks bleak. They'll even kill each other. Military austerity has ended. Well, keep it going. Who controls the Isle of Man? We do. A legacy of ink and paper. Our Raina had a solid routine that kept her sane since the Civil War. After leaving her secretary position at the local unemployment office, she'd ride the creaky, rusted-over bus down to the little village up north, one which, unlike Birmingham, seemed relatively unscarred by the years of artillery shells. In the misty cracked roadway in the town's south, she'd enter Everett's bookshop, the quaint building made of dark oak, marked only by the bright green name painted above the entrance. Time to look for another volume to spend her nights with, once the kids were fed and tucked in. After the brief greeting and chatting with old Everett, Irena went over to the world literature section. She perused the shelves like a skilled detective, an eye for any title from her native Poland, knowing that anything she found would likely be at least 30 years old. As she ran her fingers through each section of the towering shelf, she fully expected to come up empty-handed, until reaching a toppled-over collection at the very bottom level. All in nondescript red binding, within the titles were hundreds of pages written in Polish, some so old she could hardly comprehend half of what was being said. Tales of medieval rebels, supernatural battles and daily struggles of family life. All memories of a land she could hardly envision since first arriving on England's shores 10 years ago. In an instant, piled up the books and pressed them up against her chest, moving carefully over to Everett, calculating in her head to see if she could even afford such a collection from her meagre wages. "Find everything you need," Everett said, in a nasally yet ever amiable tone. Irina replied that yeah, she found exactly what she needed, but was about £15 too short. "No worries, love. This looks about as important to your family as a nightly ration package. It's yours, free of charge." With a smile and a statement of absolutely bewildered appreciation, Irina helped Everett fill up a large paper brown bag, then quickly made her way out of the shop and towards the bus stop. On a distant horizon, the White Eagle flies once more. Yeah, I know Baldur's Gate 3 dropped into early access. I've had requested a code already. They said they would get me one. Then didn't. So I've sent them another one saying, "Hey, can I please play this game? I quite like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Predawn Wilton and Gladsome Praetorian. Thank you very much for the follows. Welcome to the channel. Das Großgermanische Reich der Deutschen Nation. Nation? How the hell do you say that in German? Das Großgermanische Reich der Deutschen Nation. Nation. It's Nation, isn't it? Das Großgermanische Reich der Deutschen Nation declared war on the Republic of Slovakia. There we go. I've been struggling with that one for a while. Because it always felt so weird saying nation after all of that. It's like everything German, 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 English. How do you say that in German? I don't as a general rule. The Federation of Novosibirsk and Altai defeated the Central Siberian Republic in a war. Whoa, that's a big Pavlodar. And Novosibirsk did indeed beat Tomsk. So my guess here is Divine Mandate will beat these guys. Siberian Black will beat these guys. And who knows what's going to happen over here.